our core focus as a business. And so that's really who we are. We've been in business since 2017, and we've been doing business for quite some time. If you allow me to go through my slides, then I will not leave room for questions, if you don't mind. Okay, so that being said, let's go to the meat of the discussion today. So like I said, I'm talking about choosing the right cloud provider. So I don't want to assume that everyone knows what cloud hosting is, so I will just talk a bit about that. So cloud hosting is, the delivery of computer services like storage, software, and processing power over the internet instead of relying on a local computer or server. So what that means is cloud computing means that you are accessing, say, your website, your email services, or anything that is a computer service, but you're accessing such services over the internet and you're not relying on a local computer. There are some businesses that have what we call on-prem services or on-prem servers, which means that they have their servers and their physical location. And so, for example, some of these businesses may have email services running there, websites, or applications running locally. But cloud computing really means that you are not relying on your local infrastructure. You are using some infrastructure from a provider, and you're accessing that infrastructure over the internet. So that means that obviously you are outsourcing your infrastructure service. And the benefits of cloud computing include the fact that it's very scalable. You can easily scale. You can start and continue to build on what you have. It's also very flexible. Many times you can actually move things around. You can change the kind of infrastructure, and many times you can do this with very little complexity compared to if you have an on-prem server. It gets very, very complicated to expand or to make changes. And in many cases, cloud computing is cost-effective compared to the alternative of having your infrastructure hosted internally. So think about it. If you, for those who may have been in an environment where you have on-prem servers, it means that you need to have power, you need to have cooling, you need to have internet, you need to own the infrastructure, which comes at a very huge, commitment, because you have to buy the servers, you have to buy the equipment, then you have to manage the hardware yourself, and then you need a lot of technical people on ground to manage it. It can be a very big hassle, even for very, very small users. So, I mean, there are some cases where on-prem it makes sense, but for the majority of users, having your own physical server in your premises requires a lot of commitment, especially cost-wise. And so, outsourcing it and putting it on the cloud makes a lot of sense. And especially for small businesses, I mean, most of us don't have the kind of facilities to host our websites locally. We need to trust on providers that offer cloud computing to put these services online. So that is basically what cloud computing is all about. And so the next thing we'll now talk about are the factors to consider. Remember, we're talking about the fact that you should, of course, I assume that many people here are either using a cloud provider or think of it as a cloud provider, or you want to even learn about what this is all about, right? So I've talked to you about what cloud computing is. So the question is, what are the things that you should think about when you are choosing a cloud provider? So the first thing I want to talk about is reliability and uptime. So obviously, your cloud services or the services that you host on the cloud are meant to be available at all times. So if you want to host your content, you want to choose a cloud provider, you need to be careful to check their track records and to consider how reliable they are. So first thing you should do is that note that you should not trade reliability for cost savings. So many times we want to save money. Many of us don't want to spend a lot of money, and it's understandable. Things are hard, and so when you're looking out, you're always looking for the cheapest option. But be very careful not to choose an option that is cheap but eventually gives or leads to a lot of issues, especially when it comes to reliability and uptime. So take note of that. You should also understand the uptime guarantees by your cloud provider. Most cloud providers will give you some kind of guarantee, and then there are some compensations that are given if they don't meet those guarantees, especially if we are talking about a dedicated cloud solution like a virtual machine or a dedicated bare metal server, something similar. So try to understand what those guarantees are, because that gives you an idea of how much you can trust them. Then you should also plan for redundancy and fault failure, regardless of how great a power provider is. You always need to remember that failures do happen, things go wrong. If you notice your contract with any provider, you see that there are always conditions that are beyond anyone's imagination. So imagine if there's a major fire outbreak that affects the data center, or there's huge flooding, or there's a disaster like an earthquake that was never planned for. There are scenarios that no one can plan for. So it's always usually important that you also have some things in place, or in some cases you may want to have redundancy. So it depends on how complicated your setup is. There are some people that could have cloud instances in multiple locations, so that if one location fails, the other location picks up automatically, or you can pick it up manually. So I mean, if your the service you're providing needs to be up and it's very critical, then you have to understand that there are some considerations when it comes to redundancy. You need to be look out for things like that. And then you also need to review monitoring systems in place. So your provider should have some kind of monitoring tools in place. It's also recommended that you also have some monitoring tools in place for yourself as well, so you're able to monitor things like the health of the drives. If you're using bare metal server, for example, monitor the health of the internet connectivity and other services that are running in your application. So of course, the level at which you are going to invest in some of these things like redundancy monitoring and all that will depend on how critical the services running on the cloud is. So I mean, you may just have a simple website that if it goes down, of course it's painful, but you just wait for it to come up. But if we're running services like maybe an application that people access, things like maybe you're connected to the API of a bank, for example, and people use your application to maybe take loans or things like that, and for you it's very critical that this service doesn't go down. So the more sensitive your service is, the more levels of would I say redundancy and fault failures you need to put in place. So even if your provider is trustworthy, you need to also put some other things in place just in case things fail. Another set of factors you need to consider is interoperability and compatibility. So usually when you're moving to the cloud, you already have systems in place and you're just trying to move those systems to the cloud, or you're trying to switch from one provider to the other. So you need to be sure that the provider that you're choosing, whatever you have in place already, can integrate with that provider. So for example, imagine if you have an application that runs on, let me just give a simple example, PHP, Python, and all those kind of languages. I am going to a provider and the provider only offers Windows hosting. You see that you would definitely have challenges when you start trying to, integrate your system. So you need to do a checklist to ensure that what you have in place would integrate easily what the cloud provider is offering you. The other thing you need to also review is things like data portability and vendor lock-ins. One would always hope and expect that things work out smoothly. There are sometimes you may find yourself needing to switch from a provider, but then there are some providers that may have systems that make it very difficult for you to move your data or to switch from them. And these are things you have to put into consideration when you're choosing a provider. You want to choose a provider that you can easily move away from if you need to. And also, you need to ensure that the cloud provider that you're choosing meets all the minimum standard requirements. So if you have an application, for example, what are the minimum requirements for that application? You need to check what the minimum requirements are, and to consider and ensure that the cloud provider that you're considering to switch to meets those minimum requirements. Of course, these needs will depend on what you have in place and what your needs are. The next thing I would like to talk about, understanding your workload. If you look at this picture here, you see a guy, and there's this, huge set of stack of, probably documents that this person meant to work on. And so you can imagine the boss of this person tell this person that all this have to be done before end of business. You can see that that may be asking too much. So if you remember, I started by saying that you should be careful not to be focused only on cost savings. You need to ensure that the workload requirements of your application, your service, actually have a good fit with the solution that you're choosing. So if you already have, for example, a system that you are using and it works great, that is usually a very good indicator of what you need to pick. So for example, if you want to choose a service or a server, what's the minimum CPU that it needs? What's the minimum RAM that it needs? If you don't know that by experience, then you may have to start, playing around and testing and reviewing until you find the perfect fit. So you may need to test and review because it's not an easy science, because your application, for example, may be very heavy when it comes to CPU load or memory requirements. And of course, also depends on the traffic that you get as well. So if you don't yet have something that you can use as a benchmark, then you have to be flexible and test with something. So you start with something and then watch how it goes and just continue to scale until you get what fits your workload. You should also be ready to review performance and scalability based on workload projections, because your workload can increase. Of course, we expect that business continues to improve. You don't expect that business improve and as traffic increases on your service or your application, that you use the same infrastructure. So again, we're always saying that we don't want to spend more money, but it may be required if you want to get the best of services. So performance may start suffering as your workload keeps improving. So you need to put your workload projections in the fact that as the traffic increases, there's definitely going to be a tendency that you would need to make adjustments to the infrastructure that you've gotten. Okay, so factors to consider: data security and privacy. Now, you need to ensure that you review your data security and privacy needs against what is offered. Remember that sorry, I think somebody's mic is not muted. Kadi Resta, thank you. Thank you. So you need to review your data security and privacy needs against what is being offered. So if you, for example, work in an industry where there's a requirement on how data should be stored or how data should be accessed, then it means that as you're choosing your provider, you need to ensure that you're meeting those minimum requirements. So for example, you may be working in an industry where you have a regulator that has strict expectations on how data is managed. Now, if, for example, data is meant to be encrypted, then that means that the provider they are choosing has to either have some encryption in place, or you will create the encryption to ensure that you meet those requirements. You should also consider the location of your data against compliance requirements. Again, there may be some compliance requirements that insist that your data should be located in country or within Africa, as an example. Now, obviously, if that is a requirement by your regulator by law, then that means you can't be looking for a provider outside the country. So you have to be sure that you're trying to balance between the compliance requirements and the provider that you're choosing. So don't choose a provider simply because you think this is the best provider. Sometimes the provider may not meet some of the compliance requirements. So ensure that all the boxes are ticked. You also want to review data backup policies and disaster recovery measures. So you want to find out from the provider what their backup policies are. What happens if this instance of your application or your service should fail? How does the backup policy runs? You may realize that many providers charge you separately for data backup, and you need to know that that is in place. You can't just assume that backup comes automatically. That usually is not the case. So you need to ask questions to ensure that your data is being backed up and there are disaster recovery measures in place. And of course, depending on how critical your infrastructure is, you may need to also build something within your system to ensure that you have a disaster recovery measure in place. Okay, factors to consider: managed services and support. Please, if you have questions, you can drop them. We have the Q&A section. You can drop them right there, or you can drop chats, or just wait till when I'm done and maybe we'll take some questions. Thank you. So factors to consider: managed services and support. So again, I mean, of course, like I said before, one of the things we're always careful of is we don't want to spend on money that we don't need to spend. So many times people want to get the cheapest possible option. But sometimes when you get the cheapest possible option, you need to be sure that it meets your needs. So for example, you need to review the technical capabilities in your system against the support provided by your vendor. So for example, you are getting a virtual machine or a series of virtual machines from a vendor, and the vendor says that all they are going to do is just give you the server and you're going to manage it. So do you have a team in place that can manage the services for you? Or is it something you need to engage the provider to find out if it's something that they can offer at an additional fee, right? So you need to understand what the provider's responsibilities are so that you can manage expectations. I think one mistake that many people make is that they assume that because I'm getting a service from a provider, then everything is covered. Usually that's not the case, especially when you start talking about dedicated services. Most providers would say that the responsibility just ends in them providing the infrastructure, and from there you are responsible for ensuring that you are able to manage the infrastructure and handle everything that follows from there. So you need to be sure that you have all the necessary skills to manage infrastructure, or you negotiate with the provider to ensure that they can give you some support at some levels. And there should also be agreements on the service level agreements, and there should be service level agreements. You should know what the expectations are. How quickly would you get responses on support requests that are raised, and that helps you to know that because I mean you may expect that, okay, if I send a message now in 1 minute I get a response, but that may not be the agreement with your provider. So have that in place so that you can manage your expectations and plan ahead. Okay, so I've spoken about some of the factors that you should consider, and I'm hoping that you understand them and you think about that as you choose a provider. As I get closer to the end of my slides, because I have only 20 minutes assigned to me, risk and challenges. So things you should take note of. Be careful of vendor locking, like I mentioned earlier, which means that some vendors may have systems that make it difficult for you to switch away from there. So it's something that you need to watch out for. It should also be, I mean, one of the major risks of hosting the cloud is that there is a chance of data loss or data breaches, right? Of course, it's just one of the things that comes with the world that we live in. So you should definitely put some things in place to ensure that you have backups even beyond what the provider provides. You have some level of backups at your end so that you're able to recover if there's any major loss. You should also manage your costs, because the truth is that as your requirements increase, so does the costs. And of course, usually from a management level, there should be some level of balance between the costs and benefits, right? So how do you then create this balance? It can be tricky, but what is most important is to understand your requirements and ensure that what you are getting meets those requirements, and then you work around the cost after them. For managing cloud infrastructure, you need to understand that getting the infrastructure service is one thing, managing it is another separate thing entirely. So the question is, would you also be outsourcing the management of the cloud infrastructure, or would you actually be doing it in the house? You have skilled people in-house. Those are things that you should think about. Those are some of the possible challenges of having a cloud infrastructure. Another thing is that you need to watch out for the compliance and regulatory requirements and ensure that what you're getting from your cloud provider meets those requirements. And finally, performance and latency becomes very important, because as you are in the cloud, right? Depending on the location of the provider, there could be some latency issues. And when you're also talking about getting the managing your costs, performance may also be impacted. Okay, and so as a roundup, just in conclusion, there are a lot of advantages of migrating to the cloud. A lot of them. I mean, I don't think in this day and age we should be saying that migrating to the cloud should be something we should be thinking about. I think that every business needs to be on the cloud today, but there are some things that we should consider. There are some challenges that you may face while choosing a provider, and I think we've spent some time talking about all these things already. The second thing is that ensure that you understand where the response of the provider ends. Be careful not to assume that the provider will respond for everything. Have this conversation. Understand your needs and ensure that the offering that you're getting from the provider matches those needs, and consider reliability and the value you get before trying to save costs. So don't be, like they say, penny wise, pound foolish. You are trying to save money here, but it eventually costs you at the end of the day. And so if you would like to speak with us, these are our contact details. You can visit our website, and you can chat with us on our website, or you can call us on our phone numbers or send us an email. And with that, I am done with my presentation. Thank you very much. I think I did justice to 20 minutes, I hope. And I'm now open to the questions that you may have. Thank you very much. Back to you, Joshua.
Please, could you just see the contacts of the please?
Okay, thank you very, very much, Toba. Okay. Sorry, Lucky? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very much, Toba, for
the contacts again. Apologies.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm sure that after this call, the contact information will be shared, especially for those who are interested in cloud solutions. But that was what I just said, was just our general contact information. But thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Lucky, and thank you very much, Toba, for that wonderful presentation. For, in fact, laying the foundation on choosing the right, cloud provider, the key factors we need to, to learn, to know, and also, take into consideration. Thank you very much. So if you actually have questions for Toba, right, I would just suggest you just drop them in the Q&A section, because we're kind of, trying to work with time. Because I know in this call we have some of our, Muslim brothers and sisters, so we can kind of release guys, early to go and get your stuff for tomorrow, right? So thank you very much, Toba. So I'll be calling on the next speaker for now. Okay, thank you so much. So our next speaker for now, who will be talking about the history, products and services of Whogohost, how far we've come, and how we actually got here. So he's not a person than Olawunmi Onabajo. Olawunmi Onabajo is the Chief Operating Officer of Whogohost Limited. She started her information technology IT career in 2008 with an undergraduate internship in data communications at Huawei Technologies Nigeria Limited. Afterwards, she became a Cisco Certified Network Associate in 2008 and graduated from Covenant University in 2009. That's just like, a little brief profile about Olawunmi Onabajo. Okay, thank you so much. Olawunmi, I don't know if you're on the call.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joshua.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us today. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Sorry about that. Well, thank you for joining us today as we discuss cloud computing and the benefits of moving businesses to the cloud. My name is Olawunmi Onabajo, as Joshua has previously introduced me. So in the next few minutes, I'll just be giving a brief introduction into Whogohost and the history, though Toba has shared one or two things. So let me just share my screen, just have a very short presentation for that. Okay. So Whogohost, we are the largest web hosting provider. So we've been at this for about 16 years now, and with our position of leadership and the years of experience, we understand SMEs and how to address them. We are a leading cloud computing service provider, and we are committed to delivering reliable and scalable solutions to businesses of all sizes. So we are on a mission to help businesses succeed in a digital world by enabling them to and helping them to leverage the power of the cloud to drive growth for their business to enhance efficiency in the way they and their team work, and also to stay ahead of today's competitive markets by providing corporate solutions and customer support, which we've been known for. So just a brief history of some things about Whogohost. So we began our journey, as Toba previously mentioned, in 2007 by our founder, that's Okwemi Awuyemi, while I was still an undergraduate. And then we began business, registered in CAC as a company in 2011. And since then, we've achieved several significant milestones, such as expanding our service offerings. So initially, we just started with just domain and hosting, but right now we have a lot of service offerings, which I would share in a few minutes. We've also increased our customer base. We have about 60,000 active customers right now, and we have over 100,000 active domain names registered with us. We are the largest .ng registrar, and we are also an ICANN accredited domain registrar in the domain space, and we are Google Cloud partners. So we offer a wide range of products and services tailored to meet diverse needs of business. So we are like a one-stop shop for online cloud solutions for companies. We provide web hosting, domain registration, email hosting, cloud hosting, collaboration tools like Google Workspace, Microsoft 365 to help teams collaborate better, especially in this hybrid and remote day of work. We offer web design solutions, and we also build apps. We have backup and security tools and digital marketing. And these tools and services, they help businesses offer them flexibility, scalability, and also provide cost savings, or should I say cost efficiency for their cloud needs. So we have our enterprise friends also, and we have our enterprise offerings, and this we kind of we categorize it into three different aspects. So the cloud infrastructure as a service, which caters for servers that host applications, mails, web CRMs, ERP solutions. We also offer cloud storage, load balancers. So anything that helps businesses to succeed on the cloud, we offer all this. And we also offer software as a service solution. So such as collaboration tools, which I mentioned earlier, Google Workspace, Microsoft 365. We also build web apps for companies, for SMEs, for businesses. We also provide services to government enterprises and financial institutions. Then lastly, we also offer managed services. That's the cloud management as a service. So we can help businesses to manage their cloud services. So not just that we host cloud services, we also help businesses to manage their cloud services, especially when they don't have the internal resources to do that in-house. We can also do that. We also offer domain portfolio management, so we can help businesses to manage their list of domains, all the domains they have wherever they are, into a portfolio, and they can also get domains that maybe someone else has registered. We can help companies to also do that, get that, so we can broker that for businesses too. So these tools that we offer and solutions, they help businesses succeed in today's digital landscape. And by embracing cloud computing, which is the topic for today, we believe that businesses can benefit from the cost savings, the scalability, the enhanced collaboration, improved productivity, and also the data security that comes with the cloud. So so just lastly, this is the contact for our enterprise team, which you can contact. So the enterprise team, you can also contact them via WhatsApp. But the other contacts for our general supports, so which covers majority of our client base, but the enterprise team is a specialized team to cater for a special some, should I say, large enterprises and customers. We provide them with specialized supports for that. So I'll just end there and just leave you to leave Joshua to continue this webinar.
Okay, thank you very much, Wunmi, for that overview. Thank you so much. At least, for some of us that are actually not used to Whogohost, so we've not heard about Whogohost for the first time. So this actually just gives us like a right foundation. Talking about the history, how we came here, and then how we've actually grown from zero to where we are today. Thank you so much, Wunmi. So we actually have some questions on the Q&A segment of this. So I will just be taking some few questions for our two speakers. Okay, so one question: how do organizations pay for their cloud usage? Are they required to link a credit or debit card, or to have a domiciliary account? Are payments prepaid or postpaid?
So I'll attempt to respond to that. So it depends on the provider that you choose. So for example, if you're working with us as your cloud provider, and we offer different options, you'll be paying in Naira and dollars. So that means that you'll be able to make payments either using bank transfers in your local debit card or anything like that. And yes, usually you would pay ahead of time. You won't pay after the fact. You pay, for example, you would pay for a 3-month period, a 1-year period. So all those will be part of the negotiations that you have when you're onboarding. And for most cloud providers, it's a similar experience as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Toba, for that. Okay, another question here from David Isu. Hope I pronounced that well. Okay, if an organization wants to migrate to cloud, do you handle the data migration, or we have to do them ourselves?
Okay, well, in many cases, we would handle the migration, but again, it will depend on the kind of systems that you have in place. And so those will be part of the initial negotiation and discussion phase, which is part of what I told you, that you should understand the expectations of the providers. Many providers will not help you. It's usually considered as a managed service. Migration is not part of the service you're getting. So depending on the kind of migration that you're referring to, in our case, will help you to some level, or whatever provider you choose may help you to some level. I mean, you may need to have your team in place to help you to handle that. So it will be on a case-by-case basis.
Okay, thank you so much, Toba. Okay, just last question before we move to other sessions. Okay, Mrs. Olawunmi. Okay, this question is from Stella Charles. She said, Mrs. Olawunmi, I listened to you say a lot about Whogohost. I want to sincerely appreciate the organizers of this webinar. Good job. Okay, my question is, what is your take about the recurring resource limits affecting your potential clients? Okay, so the question is, what's your take about the recurring resource limits affecting our potential clients?
It seems that Wunmi is not here. Not sure.
Okay,
Let me attempt to respond to that. So the question says, what's your take about the recurring resource limits affecting your potential clients? Well, I'm not sure what perspective this person is asking, but I would assume that this person is referring to using a service either from us or another provider where they are hitting limits, because regardless of the service you get from any provider, there will definitely be limits. And so if you find out either by experience or your provider informing you that you are hitting limits consistently, then the only way around that is for you to upgrade, either upgrade to a higher version of the current service that you're using, or if you have got to a point where you need a dedicated service, then you need to get one. And just as I mentioned earlier, the fact that you're getting a dedicated service automatically mean that the service can handle anything, right? I mean, your infrastructure can get very complicated as your workload increases. So like I mentioned also, you have to consider your workload and find what works best with your workload. And many times that process of finding that balance between what works for your workload is a process you would experiment until you get it right. So either you already know what you need or you will find out from experience. You speak with your potential provider and they recommend something to start with, and then you can start with it and then need to upgrade if necessary, depending on what the workload is. I mean, if your server is being overworked, your server is being overworked, there's nothing anybody can do, except either you optimize the application or the services or you upgrade the services. So it's one or the other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Toba. Okay, just the last question. Okay, this question from Amzat to our right. There was downtime about a month ago. How do you ensure this does not happen again?
Okay, thank you so much for that, Amzat. So maybe I will just respond to this. Like about a month ago, so we offer several services. One of the services we offer is shared hosting. We have our providers we have a data center in the United States, and our providers had a routine power maintenance. Now, each of our servers, we use bare metal servers for our shared hosting service. Each of our servers have what you call dual PDUs. PDUs mean power power. I can't remember what the D means, but it basically means that you have different power units. So the server actually has two power sources. So if one goes down, the other one picks up. So that maintenance was meant to be a maintenance that would lead to no outage whatsoever. Or as a weird situation that happens once in a while. If you remember, I mentioned that these things do happen. There are sometimes that things just go wrong, and it was just an unprecedented situation where we're performing the maintenance that led to power outage that affected not only our servers but other servers across the data center. And while they were trying to resolve the issue, it led to our servers rebooting multiple times. And for those of you who are familiar with how servers work, servers don't do well when they are forcefully rebooted. And so that process led to a painful restoration process for us that affected some of our customers. It was a minority of our customers, but they are customers regardless. And I would like to apologize because it seems that Hamzat was affected by this, and any customer affected, it was really a situation that was actually beyond our control. But thankfully, we've been able to bring things under control at the moment. So how do we prevent this from happening in future? This was one of those force majeure or things that are unanticipated. We are definitely engaging with our providers to ensure that these or similar issues don't happen in future, but we are definitely looking into understanding what went wrong and prevent from happening. But just to be clear, the data center is not even in Nigeria, it's in the US, so you can have standard systems in place. So it was just one of those things that happen sometimes. And I hope that answers your question, Hamza. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Toba, for the explanation. Okay, I could see some hands being raised, but due to time factor, what we'll do is that in the course of other sessions, right, we may actually give opportunities for you to unmute your mic and ask your questions, right? So for now, we'll just move to the third speaker, right? So just like I said earlier on, just be with us, and we'll be fine. Okay, so moving to the third speaker we have for today. His name is Eromose Anetor. Eromose Anetor is the Cloud Implementation Manager at Mainone, an Equinix company. He's a graduate of electronics engineering and also a Microsoft certified trainer. He has over 10 years of experience with cloud technologies. He has architected and implemented several private clouds, cloud solutions, and network security solutions to help protect and ensure customer data are protected. Right. So Eromose will be speaking on the topic data security in the cloud and the things we actually need to know about that. Thank you so much as welcome Eromose and Anetor. Good morning, Eromose.
Good morning. Thank you very much for that introduction.
Yeah, thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, please confirm you can see my screen. Sure, please, can you see my screen?
Yeah, I think it's still coming up.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, it's up now.
Okay, all right, thank you. Hey, thank you everybody for joining this webinar. Good morning. We are here to discuss this very important topic, how organizations should move to the cloud and data security in the cloud. I am Eromose. I look after the cloud deployments in Mainone. Mainone, an Equinix company, is a leading West African data center and connectivity solutions provider with presence in Nigeria, Ghana, and Cote d'Ivoire. Mainone also offers reliable services. Before we dive in, allow me to share a quote with you by John Maxwell. Change is inevitable, but growth is optional. Today, in this presentation, we will be discussing the strategy in moving to the cloud, main concerns. We will look at the shared responsibility model, what data security should look like in the cloud, and when to trust a cloud provider. There are certain things that grow organically in every organization. Most obvious are processing, memory, and storage. As your business expands, you are going to need these resources often and at faster intervals. Getting these resources can be complicated by lengthy procurement processes, let alone the time it takes to deploy this equipment and integrate with your business. It is obvious that there are huge costs that come with on-premise infrastructure, such as annual fees for hardware support, hardware refresh, increased electricity bills, just to mention a few. Businesses that cannot adapt with the speed and agility that's needed in the modern market will not be able to compete in the global market. The only platform that gives you that agility to be competitive is the cloud. The cloud addresses the challenges of traditional IT. It allows you to have expanded capacity in a shorter time frame. Cloud provides that mobility where you can access corporate data and software anytime from any device and from anywhere. It gives you that agility where you can rapidly develop, test, and launch both existing and new applications that drive your businesses with growth. It is dynamic. It allows you to balance your resources and cost between private and public clouds as well. It gives you that flexibility to adapt to changes in the market and technology itself. Data security is one of the most important factors that keep business owners up at night. The cloud can help you to alleviate this stress. It may please you to note that organizations are beginning to trust the cloud, and by 2025, total worldwide data storage on cloud is expected to exceed 200 zettabytes. Some factors to consider when choosing a cloud provider are greater resiliency, global compliance and security standards, reduce latency, a dedicated 247 support team skilled in the area of cloud. The cloud provider must put in place the right security controls for authentication, authorization, and accounting. And they should be a global player in the data center space. It is natural to be apprehensive and worry about the security of your data in the cloud, especially when you do not know where it's located. The speed and agility that the cloud provides gives you the impression that it must be costly. The division of responsibilities introduces bloodlines when it comes to who is responsible for what in terms of security. These are some of the major concerns of organizations. And we want to have as many conversations as possible with you to unblur these lines and give you that peace of mind when it comes to securing your data in your digital transformation journey. According to Gartner, through 2025, 99% of cloud security failures will be the customer's fault. Gartner last year predicted 95% of security failures are caused by the customer. Case I wrote for Gartner last year, 2022. In nearly all cases, it is the user, not the cloud provider, who fails to manage the controls used to protect an organization's data. These predictions should serve as a wake-up call to all organizations that they need to get a better handle of their data security. This includes knowing where their data is, understanding their responsibility, implementing and enforcing controls, policies, and practices to secure their data in the cloud. In order to stay competitive, you have the responsibility to be agile, flexible, and expansive. But you have to do this in a secure manner, especially now with Data Protection Act, where you can suffer crippling sanctions if it is deemed that the appropriate system and operational controls are not in place to protect personally identifiable information. You have greater responsibility to protect your corporate data in every step of your cloud journey. We as enablers, we are here to give you that guidance in terms of next steps as you traverse through your journey in digital transformation, especially as it relates to the cloud. Which security duties are performed by the cloud provider? Which security duties are performed by you is determined by the shared responsibility model. Let's look at this from this analogy. If you are renting a house, the security of the house is the owner's responsibility. He's got to put up fences and deploy an alarm system, install fire alarms and other bunch of stuff. But the actual security of the items inside the house, it's your responsibility. Security is a partnership between you and the cloud provider. You are responsible for most of it. Cloud, simply put, is just a data center somewhere else, owned by someone else. Therefore, the term cloud doesn't mean the absence of physical infrastructure. And in terms of security, it is where the cloud provider puts their focus, the physical infrastructure. This is the shared responsibility model from the Center of Internet Security, CIS. The cloud provider manages security of the cloud. Security in the cloud is the responsibility of the customer. As a customer, you maintain the control of what security you choose to implement to protect your own data. Platform, applications, systems, and networks, just as you would do in your on-premise data center. Let's look at the column at the right for the on-premise and the security responsibility. You are responsible and accountable for the security of your entire infrastructure. Your on-premise equipment and your and your data, you are responsible. You are responsible and accountable. If you compare that with the infrastructure as a service model, that's the cloud offering. The cloud provider is responsible for the physical infrastructure, the host, the hypervisors, and networking between the hosts. But it is shared. You are responsible for the virtual machines and the network controls that are in the cloud and everything else. What you can see here that is consistent here is you are always going to be responsible for your data, responsible and accountable. In a nutshell, the cloud provider is always going to be responsible for the physical infrastructure, while you are responsible for your data, for the security of your data. As organizations that is looking at moving to the cloud, you need to ensure this. You need to ensure the security of your data in the cloud. You must put in place business continuity plans, very important. You have to architect and design your applications based on best practices without compromising security. You have to ensure that you have a good change management system. Not just you, the cloud provider as well need to have a very good change management system. You have to ensure that your data in the cloud is encrypted at rest. It should be encrypted in transit as well. You must also ensure that data is backed up at regular intervals, and the backup data, they are encrypted, as well as the backup. As a bonus point, you need to incorporate the right security controls for authentication, authorization, and accounting to secure your data in your cloud environment. It's your responsibility and you're accountable to it. How do you know a cloud provider actually does what they say they do? The answer is simple. They must undergo a bunch of different compliance and security audits from different bodies who will attest that they are meeting the required standards. The big one here to note is the ISO 27001, which is by far globally recognized as one of the most stringent standards. The next one is the PCI DSS, which means that you can have millions and even billions of dollars go through the cloud provider's platform. SOC 2 specifies how organizations should manage their customers' data. The standard is based on the following: security, availability, processing, integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. We invite you to grow with us. And remember, change is inevitable. Growth is optional. Can you reach out to us for more technical discussions and allow us to help you achieve your digital transformation as it relates to cloud? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Eromose and Anetor, for that wonderful presentation. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's just go this way. So if you have just one or two questions for our last speaker, Mr. Eromose, you can just unmute your mic and just ask. So you can unmute your mic now if you have.
Yeah, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Olawunmi. My question is
Sorry?
Olamide.
Okay, Mr. Olamide, please, can you just speak a bit louder?
Okay, fine. Can you hear me much more clear?
Okay, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. I am a software architect, and I do have an application. I'm the technical team lead. Right. So I want to ask: is it possible to host our database, just database now, on Mainone?
Yes.
That's my question.
Okay. Yes, you can host your database server on our platform. We'll also help you with migration as well. We'll be sharing our contact details at the end somewhere. You just contact us from there.
Hello.
Okay, yeah. So so just to add
Hello.
that's hello, Mr. Timitayo.
Temitayo.
Please just
Temitayo, yes.
yeah, please just mute your mic. Yeah, please just mute your mic.
Yes, I have
Yeah.
done that.
Okay,
Can you
thank
hear
you.
me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Just a second, please. Okay, so just share. Mainone is one of our partners, right, in providing hosting services, local hosting services in Nigeria. So you want to host your server thereabouts locally in Nigeria, right? You can reach out to us and we speak to Mainone, right? Okay, thank you. Mr. Tayo, I can see your hand has been up since. Okay, you can ask your question now. Hello, Mr. Tayo. Hello, can you hear me?
I have unmuted my mic now.
Okay, I can hear you now. Okay, you can go ahead with the question.
Okay. Is there a difference between the cloud hosting and PVS, that is private virtual service? Did you get my question?
Okay, yes, I do get your question, but is there the speakers you want to, direct that question to, or you just throwing it open?
Okay. Okay.
No, I'm asking you, is there a particular speaker you want to answer that question, or you just throwing it open to all speakers?
I just throw it open. I just throw it open. Any one of them can answer it.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, so Mr. Eromose, would you like to answer that question?
Okay, please. I'm struggling to understand your question. Could you please repeat again? Thank you. You are on mute.
Between
Timitayo.
Okay, I have
You're on
unmuted
mute.
now.
Okay, thank
I
you.
have done it. Yes, I have unmuted now. Is there a difference between the cloud hosting services you are telling us now and private virtual hosting, the PVS stuff? Is there a difference between the two, or are they the same?
When you say private hosting, assume that it's your on-premise infrastructure. There's a big difference. But if you say it's in terms of where it's located, it is private, there's isolation, and the benefits of that privacy, our data center gives you, Whogohost as well, will give you that form of isolation. There's no difference. So the benefits of what you enjoy in the public cloud, you can also enjoy the same benefits on our data centers.
Okay. Okay.
Just to add to that, what you'll be looking at is latency. So if you are hosting with us, you are going to experience very reduced latency. So your clients won't be complaining about slowness in reaching your website and all of that. Then also you need to consider, just as Toba shared earlier on, he shared the compliance, and security audits that these data centers must meet. Then you as well, are you chased by compliance requirements? You need to also look at that. So it's good to host your data with a data center that has or meets these compliance requirements.
Okay. I got you. It's okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much, Mr. Eromose, for that. Okay. So the last person I'll be taking now is Junebawi Vareba. I don't know if I got that.
Good afternoon. Thank you
Good
for
afternoon.
giving me the floor. Okay, that was a very wonderful presentation by, sorry, your name again, by Anetor. Okay, I've been listening to the speakers so far. Me, on my own, I've taken a few courses on cloud before now, and I am thinking that you guys are speaking the same kind of jargon that I listened to, I read in books. But listen to you from the business perspective, I'm not really being convinced about what you are selling and what exactly do you mean if I should buy a cloud service, for instance. Okay, let me be very practical. I have a company, for instance, or I have a few companies that I have, each of them have a website. Maybe they have cPanel, probably just website, and that has the emails and those websites. That's just what I do in that hosting. Then I also have maybe on my staff, I have documents that are produced on daily basis that are resident on several systems locally. And I have a fear that these systems could go, something could happen, and peradventure I'll lose this data. And I am thinking of a solution that I can have all the data that I have on all the systems here migrated to cloud. For instance, I can use my normal drive, Google Drive, for instance, that have just 15 gig. And being a big company, that will not be enough. Trying to buy more space, I can buy more space and get all my data migrated to that drive. Now, I was thinking that peradventure I could listen and see. I've been looking for a solution that can have you have maybe your website hosted, your emails hosted, or your files moved and managed from a central point. So for businesses that are not really into reselling services or peradventure, I believe that an average, most of the small businesses have this same issue I'm talking about. All of them have a website, they have emails, most of them have emails and website, and they have files that they want to protect. Those are the main thing. Those files that they have, they want to be able to have access. Like my boss just bought the laptop here, he's having an issue. Most of his files are resident there. He was asking me, how does he move these things to the cloud? I have another system somewhere, and most of the systems that the files that are resident here cannot access them on that system. So I am thinking that the business problem we are having is more around these files that we have that are resident on our system, that we can have people to access it on another system elsewhere while the system is here. And then maybe having also our website or email integrated in. So I don't know. So far, they asked me if I'm interested in this cloud solution now. What should be the kind of cloud service I should opt for? I don't know. I'm just hearing latency, hearing a lot of technical terms that it doesn't really digest to me.
Okay, let me try to respond to that. Good afternoon, sir. I'm sorry if it seems like the webinar is not what you expected, but this webinar, the goal of this webinar wasn't exactly to tell you what solution to use. The goal of this webinar was to introduce the whole concept of cloud computing, why it's necessary, and what you need to watch out for when you're choosing a provider. The truth of the matter is that the cloud computing needs of businesses differ. And usually what happens is that you know that if you know that you need to go to the cloud, that's just the beginning of the journey. So you either know the solution that you need or you know the problem that you have. Whichever the case, then you start engagement with a potential cloud provider, like say Whogohost as an example. Whogohost is also a Mainone partner, for example. So if for example you identify that you need a Mainone service, or you're not even sure what you need, you start the engagement with us, and I'm sure that the team will share the contact details. So if you say, for example, what you have is that you have a website, but then you have storage or things you would like to move to the cloud, the conversation can then go into, do you want to save everything on the same cloud cloud infrastructure, for example? Do you want to separate your website from, what you're storing? What kind of things are you storing? How do you want them to be accessed? Are you just creating somewhere where you just want somewhere things will be just kept, or do you want to have access to, you can be able to share access? So the kind of needs and the things that you share as your needs will then determine the solution that will work for you. So usually when it comes to cloud services, it may not necessarily be one size fits all. But what we're trying to do in this webinar is to tell you that, first off, getting to the cloud is important. And yes, some of these things can get technical very easy, and I'm sorry if it's very technical for you. But the summary of our conversation is that you need to identify the cloud providers that you would use by first taking note of certain things, like your needs, like what the compliance requirements are for your business. And then once you have those things sorted out, then you engage with your provider or your potential provider. You ask more questions, you explain what your needs are, you get information of what they are offering to meet those needs, and then you determine whether it's fits your needs. The truth is that there are so many cloud solutions, except if this webinar, the goal of this webinar is to sell one. There's no way we can actually talk about it all. So I would just say that this is just to whet your appetite. If you have any specific needs, then we can start engagements after here, and I'm sure the team will share details on how you can engage with us. I hope that helped. But thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toba, for actually giving justice to that. And also thank you very much, Mr. Baiba, for the question. Okay, I'll just take in a last question from the QA section, and I'll move to our last speaker for today. Okay, and I think I'll be also directing this question to Toba also. Okay, I'm just knowing of cloud management as a service. How would the organization's data and assets be kept secure? Do you provide vetted staff to manage such cases?
Sorry, who is this question from, so I can see the question myself?
It's from Anonymous.
Okay, Anonymous. Can you read the question again, please?
Okay, I'm just knowing of cloud management as a service. How would the organization's data and assets be kept secure? Do you provide vetted staff to manage such cases?
Okay, yes, we do have cloud management as a service. Regarding vetting, we do vet our staff, and at some point there would have to be trust in our organization that we are going to keep your data safe. But we are currently compliant with NDPR, and we have necessary safety nets in place to ensure that the people who have access to your systems are vetted. And there are certain situations that we can create such that you only give us access to your systems when we need access, for example, or when there's actually for us to access your services. So you can give us temporary access, and we can revoke those accesses as needed. So it depends on what your needs are. If you're very sensitive about access to your data, we can definitely have that conversation once we understand your needs. One of the beautiful things about cloud services is that, once we understand your needs, we can try to create something bespoke to meet those needs. And I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Toba. Okay, so like I initially said, we're moving very fast. So now we're actually going to the last speaker for this event, and her name is Faith Olawunmi. Faith Olawunmi is a cloud engineer and is currently the head of technical services at Whogohost, one of the best and largest web hosting companies in the world. She graduated from Gateway Polytechnic, where she studied computer engineering. Her professional career started from being an intern at IDM, which was contracted to Airtel as an IT support officer. She later joined Whogohost as a customer support intern, and she has actually gone, to the rank of the head of technical services at Whogohost. So she'll be speaking on the risks and challenges of cloud migration. The risks and challenges of cloud migration. Thank you, and good morning, Faith. Good afternoon.
Hi, Joshua. Good afternoon, everybody.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. So I'm gonna share my screen. Just a moment. Just a moment, please. Okay. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay. So I'm gonna be moving very fast, due to time. So I'm gonna be talking about sorry. Again, my name is Rachel Raju, and I welcome everybody. So I'm going to be talking about the risk and challenges of cloud migration. So Toba already mentioned like you practically mentioned everything I'm going to talk about. So I'm just going to be probably iterating on those things and that you mentioned, So I'm going to start with data security and privacy. So one of the primary concerns when migrating to the cloud is the security and privacy of the data. You need to carefully access the security measures and protocols of your choosing cloud service provider to ensure that sensitive information remains protected. So basically, you need to be able to trust your cloud provider not to expose your data. So your files and your data basically are very sensitive. And if you're going to be migrating from one, let's say, a provider or your on-premises servers to your cloud servers, you need to be sure that while in the course of migration, the data are not going to be exposed to the public, and your core files, your codes and all will not be exposed. So basically, you need to be able to trust them. So you could get information about them maybe through online reviews and all that. I'm very sure that if anybody has had any issues with them in the past, they would mention something like that about data security and the privacy from the company. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is data loss. So basically, before you migrate to the cloud, you have to ensure that you back up all your data, because any something funny can happen, anything could happen. So you want to ensure that you have a backup just in case anything happens. You can basically restore your backup. And I'm not talking about on your cloud infrastructure's end. I'm talking about on your own end. So you want to move your files from your on-premises server, or you share those things server to a cloud server. Yes, your cloud provider should take a backup. That's like a normal process for before a migration takes place. But however, you have to take your backup first to avoid the risk of losing your files. Just in case you just imagine if you don't take your backup before migrating, or they start the migration from their end, and maybe something happens and they can't recover the files. You'll be at the end of you now start dragging each other to courts, suing cases and all that. So to avoid storage that touch the heart, you really have to take your backup first, which is the first thing to actually consider after the data risk and all that. So let me go to vendor availability and downtime. I mentioned that you can do reviews about your new cloud service provider, so that they're reliable and they can avoid downtimes. Basically, not like you can really avoid downtimes, but then the number of downtimes could be reduced. So you can check online for reviews basically on how they manage their downtimes and how reliable they are, basically. And you need to look at network connectivity and performance. So network connectivity it plays a vital role in your migration. Cloud migration basically relies heavily on network connectivity. If an organization's network infrastructure is unreliable and lacks sufficient bandwidth, it could impact the performance and accessibility of cloud services, and this could lead to users' dissatisfaction and productivity issues. So you need to be sure that they have a good speed in their network, and network latency is good. So you need to ensure those things. So basically, you could ask those questions, and in case you're not very, very sure of what you're seeing online while you're doing your survey before you pick a cloud server, you could reach out to them and ask them questions about that. Or you could reach out to someone who is an expert in the field, and you could ask them about the network connectivity and network latency about of the particular cloud provider you're actually considering to move to. Then I'm going to talk about change management and staff training. So basically, another vital role of migrating is that you should have a team who are hands-on on the cloud infrastructures, or how it works, how things work. Because after migrating, you need to be able to manage your cloud infrastructure. Although you could pay your cloud service provider for management and all that, but it comes at an extra cost, which could be more costly or expensive than actually training your staff or getting an expert to do it. So it depends on what works for you, basically. But what matters is that you have an hands-on team who could manage your cloud infrastructure, basically. So then I'm going to go to data transfer and compatibility. So one of the risks is that you have to think about compatibility issues. Let's say from a system who uses Ubuntu operating system, you're moving to a system which uses CentOS. So you need to consider those operating system, and then it goes back to your team as well. So if you're training them to use, Ubuntu operating system, you need to actually train them to use CentOS systems. So these things need to come into play when you're actually thinking about cloud migration. So you need to avoid issues like, especially when you have GUIs, so like cPanel migrations. Some applications may not work with one particular operating system. So you need to think about those things, basically. So the next one is cost management and optimization. So while cloud offers scalability and flexibility, it can also lead to unexpected costs if not managed effectively. So organizations must closely monitor and optimize their cloud usage to avoid unnecessary expenses and ensure cost effectiveness. So you could try to avoid this risk by actually doing a pay as you go, basically. So somebody mentioned that what's the difference between cloud and PVS. So if I want to understand what the person is saying, is actually talking about a virtual private servers. Basically, if you're choosing between both of them, I'm just using that to try to explain this. So if you're trying to pick between both, if you are going for cloud, you can easily do a pay as you go service, or you could do pay per use. So it depends on what you're doing. So if you and your finance management could actually sit down to think about the cost, because if you do pay as you go, you may actually not spend much, and at the same time you could end up spending too much. So your team will also play a vital role. Your cloud team will also play a vital role, so that you don't use more than what you should in a month, or by the duration you are going to pay for, basically. So that's all about my presentation. I don't know if anybody has a question.
Okay, thank you very much, Faith, for that wonderful presentation, telling us the risks and challenges attached to cloud migration. Right. Thank you very much for that. So I don't know if there are 1 or 2 questions for Faith. Oh, I can see a lot of persons giving thumbs up. So that means Faith, you actually did a great job. Okay, so let me just check from the Q&A section to see. Okay, just a minute. Okay, so this question is from Nsika Umo. Nsika, I think you should maybe from Akwa Ibom or Calabar or Cross River. Okay, your question, could you please share the link to a document that describes how local businesses can partner with you to resell domains and Google Workspace? Okay, great question. So you could just kind of visit our website, www.whogohost.ng, right? And one of the sections there, you will see how to become a domain reseller with us, right? So it's just strictly, straight and clear. Okay. Okay, so any other question? Okay, Amos Unisa. Okay, yeah, you can ask a question now. You can unmute yourself and
Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Joshua. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I want to ask a question. You guys had to migrate, to new servers recently, and I think I personally had a lot of issues regarding that migration. I wasn't going to my account on Whogohost to check the updates of your proceedings as at then. So I couldn't back up some of my databases for some of the apps on your servers. But eventually, after the migration happened, I lost a couple of databases for some of my apps, and I followed up raising tickets on your platform. Some were attended to, some were not attended to. And as I speak to you, I had to bear the cost of reinstallation and, trying to buy a domain name and hosting account on another hosting company to be able to put up those businesses. So it wasn't a cool experience at all. And up until now, I've not gotten any viable reply about the loss of my database. So I want you to take it up from there and advise me on what to do if I can do a recovery, because data was lost, and these are business data, very key information that I started having litigations from my clients, trying to take me to court and all of that. So I don't know when there's a data loss or a database loss, what are your policies to either data recovery or compensation, or I don't know how you do it. I just want you to educate me on how to move on from here, because I'm already losing interest in Whogohost. I have more than 20 something, more than close to 30 what do you call it, accounts or 30 businesses being hosted on your platform, on your servers. And I've moved out so many of them already because of this experience I had recently. So I want you to advise me on this.
Okay. Thank you, Aoyun, for that. And I want to sincerely apologize for what you faced. Right. Sincerely, I want to apologize for that. And also, before the MD left, Toba left, he also kind of did a form of explanation on that. Right. Sincerely apologize for that. And so I don't know, Faith. I don't know if you could just say one or two things to that.
Yeah, I'm waiting for you to call me Amos. Mr. Amos,
Yes.
I am sincerely sorry for the what happened to you. Because I know the sorry does not cut it, does not fix anything. But I am saying it as a form of formal apology. And if there's anybody on this call that has had had an issue with us, with any of our servers or anything or services, I am sincerely apologizing right now. I understand how it feels when your business is offline and it's supposed to be online. I know that you could lose a lot. Your clients will be on your neck. I am so sorry, honestly. I'm sincerely sorry. On behalf of entire team of Whogohost, we are sincerely sorry. So what I'm going to do right now is Mr. Amos, could you please drop your domain name?
Okay.
Yes, or your email address that you use with Google so that I can check from my hand and see if there are backups from my hand that we can restore for you. Is that okay?
Okay. Can I drop it on this platform?
Yes, you can. You can drop it on the chat here. I want to check right away.
Okay. Let me drop one there.
Okay.
Thank you, Joshua.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's about that. Okay. Thank you, Faith, for that. And also, we just started a poll. I don't know if you've seen it. There's a poll actually live. It's just let us know how the webinar went. So we'll take it as a feedback and work on future ones. So let me just share this just to. Okay, so this is our contact address, right? Our office here, enterprise team here, and the general support team, details also here. My name is Joshua Ikwemuka. I'm the enterprise business development manager at Whogohost, and I also have on the call, some of my team members to Chibugo and also Ifunaya. So if you have questions or you have want to do business with us, please just feel free to reach out on these email addresses and the phone numbers here. So I think in absence of further questions and another thing, I think we want to say a very, very big thank you for joining us. And also, just to even say this before we leave, we also offer, there's one of the services we offer, which is pay in Naira, right? So in case you're actually having difficulties in paying, let's say, Google, Microsoft, or Amazon, right, in USD, right, you can just pay us in Naira while we help you in sorting out the dollar payments, right? So just pay us in Naira while we do the dollar payments for you.
Okay, Mr. Joshua, sorry.
Please, I have
I
a
see.
question. Can you hear me?
Questions on the question and answer session that has not been addressed.
Oh, okay. Let me check that.
Can you hear me, please?
Okay, Mr. Francis. Okay, so I will just take your question and check the question, the QA. And
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, please.
Please, I want to know if an IVR service can be hosted on the cloud. An IVR application that is supposed to go through these vast aggregators. Can we host it directly on cloud?
Okay, Fitz, would you like to speak to that?
Okay, yes, you can.
Anybody who has the
Hi, Mr. Francis.
and users can call in with their phones.
Yes, so it depends on your configuration. So while you get the cloud server from us, yeah. So the other job relies on your developers or your team who could install or configure the server to fit what exactly you want to use it for, basically.
So how do we get the short code?
The soft code.
Is it Whogohost that will provide that?
Okay, so
That
normally
callers will call into?
no. So normally, all we just do is provide you with the server to host your applications. Yeah. So, but if you want us to get the application for you, although we really do not do this, but we could check from our end if we could get the application for you. But it's advisable that you get your team of developers to actually install the application on the server after you purchase the server. Does that answer your question, Mr. Francis?
What's the estimated cost for that?
Okay, so every application has its own requirement, specification, server specification requirements. So you would tell us your server specific your application requirement. This will help us to give you advise you on the cloud infrastructure to go for, and that would actually determine the cost. So you could reach out to us via the enterprise team. They would get in touch with the tech team to get you all the information you need. Trust me. Is that okay, sir?
This address, this contact address on the screen.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
It's all right. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Francis.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Francis. So I was trying to.
Hello, please. Hello.
Yeah, hello, Joshua.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting there. I dropped the question as well on the chat, and it was partially answered. I don't know if you can help me out. Okay.
So just and this will
I'm giving the task. I'm giving the task to programmatically manage domain names from a custom application. So I'm consuming your API, and one of the requirements for me is that I change the A records of domains that have been purchased from your end. I've gone through the docs and I've discovered that it's only domain name server update that is available. So I don't know whether I'm on the wrong documentation or is there a way or something available that I can reference to make that?
Okay, Joshua, can I tell you that? Okay.
Yeah, you
so,
can.
All right. So, if I get you right, you have some domains that you got from us, and you want to provision or add records for all of them, right?
No, I don't have domains that I got from you. I'm building application that requires users to buy domains from that application.
Okay.
So I make calls from that application to your endpoints to buy the domains.
Okay,
at the same time,
right? Okay.
Yeah. So I want to configure the A records, the CNAME, or other hosting records of the domain to point to the server I'm using without the need for me to log into the dashboard on Whogohost and configure all of that.
Interesting. I will be honest with you. I don't think we have such feature yet. But I would check with the product team and ask them.
Okay.
You could drop your email with Joshua so that we can give you an update. Is that okay?
Thank you. Yeah, it's okay. I'll be expecting. Thank you.
All right. So drop your email with Joshua. Joshua, please can you take note of his email so that we can give him an update?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right.
So
thank you so much.
So,
Yeah.
my namesake. Okay. Good afternoon, Victoria.
Yes, I've raised my hand for a while and I joined this meeting late. It's so good to put a face to who ghosts. In fact, it's like you guys have been a ghost, you know, for a long time. And it's so good this morning for me. I'm not in Nigeria anyway, to put a name to this company. I just want to confirm that after now, I can reach someone on all these numbers because I have a pending issue for months that has not been sorted for me. I have a domain name purchased from you, and I have not been able to send out emails at all. I can receive, but I can't send. I've sent a lot of what's it called now? Emails to some support group, and it's just been confusing. I'm losing interest. So I hope after now I can reach people on this number. That's just what I want to confirm. Or is there a number you want to give us specifically that we can reach people on? Because I need this issue sorted. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Right. So I just dropped my my email address also there. But this is the team email address. So in case you don't reach me, or in case you try reaching me and maybe I'm actually not responding, you could just also just send the mail to the enterprise email address here, and believe you me, you will actually get a fast response to your queries. Thank you so much for that.
Hello,
okay,
Mr.
so
Josh.
oh, sorry, so Mr. Amos, I think we just need to leave now, right?
No,
I know there are a lot of questions.
My question was not answered.
Okay,
I'm
so what was
sorry,
the
I
question?
can't navigate. I can't navigate this whatever. I don't know where you dropped your email address.
I dropped it on the in-call messages.
Okay, I will send you the email now. But please, I need a policy document on data loss. When there's a data loss, especially from your end, how do we approach that as your client? Who do we hold responsible? You know, because I'm getting litigations from my own clients that I lose their data. And how do I forward that to you? Because sorry is just not enough. I need to know and understand fully what it requires from your end.
Okay, fine. Mr. Amos, right? Like my colleague Faith rightly said. So just help us. I believe you've actually dropped your email address, right, on the chat session. Right. So yeah, there's a team of us that is actually taking all questions, both the questions that we are unable to answer now, right? All questions, and those of us that actually looking at to do businesses with an Whogohost address, right? We're actually taking out those informations, and we ensure and promise you guys that we'll get back to you after today. Because if we say we want to start taking all questions and answering everything, believe me, we'll just be here for a long time. Thank you. Right. Thank you so much.
Felix, can I just ask one few questions?
Mr. Jerry.
Please. I just want to know, does your platform, Whogohost, can someone host ASP.NET and Laravel applications?
Okay, so at the moment, for you to host ASP.NET, you may have to get a Windows server. We don't host it on our shared hosting platforms. But if you want to host your Laravel hosting, you could host it on our shared hosting or the cloud SaaS. So it depends on your choice on that.
Please, just to add a voice to that, Windows Server, we need Windows Server. Why is Whogohost not providing that service? That's actually the question I asked.
Windows servers, Windows shared hosting servers.
Yes, sorry, Windows shared hosting server. Yes, shared hosting.
Okay.
Alright,
thank you.
Would think about that,
Yes, because you guys are the most reliable. As far
Yeah,
as,
because you, and as an indigenous
need this from you guys.
hosting platform, you could have to make provision for all these things.
Okay, we'll make it public if we are going to do that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much. Really appreciate. At least the whole webinar was very, very engaging. At least it was not one-sided, right? Thank you for making it very, very interesting and also engaging, right? And so before we go, I just want to wish all our Muslim brothers and sisters on this call a happy celebration tomorrow. And in fact, thank you guys, for the Muslim sisters and brothers for making tomorrow a public holiday for us. Thank you all, and enjoy the rest of the day. God bless you. It's bye from here.
Thank you.
Thank you.